Okay, here we go. Welcome back to hey, Okay, here we go. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. My name is Mike Perrine. This is the Everyday Detox podcast. And in this episode, I sit and hang out with my dear friend, Jen Gonzalez, who has been on the podcast before. Some of you have seen her there. You also know her from Instagram. I'll put all of her info down in the description or the show notes. And at the beginning of the year, Jen had an idea to be more social and connect. And she said, Mike, we hardly talk anymore. We're both parents. We both own businesses. She said, let's do some podcasting or Instagram lives. And I said, that's a great idea. The best intentions, I tell you, the best intentions. But when your life schedule can be a logistical nightmare like mine can be, sometimes things happen and come out later than sooner. And I've constantly been playing a game of catch up. But here we are, and this episode is releasing. Now, in this episode, some topics came up that I made an executive decision on to not put into this episode. And they were good and they were funny. And Jen and I have a lot of stuff, and so do my other colleagues, have a lot of things that we would like to say publicly, but it's a challenging thing to do. So there's going to be a change to Everyday Detox Academy, and Everyday Detox Academy is actually moving into a new platform, which is a community-based platform. And all of the master classes will be there and available, and they're going to be at a highly discounted and much more accessible rate for those of you who have not been able to join the academy in the past. But once you're in the community, people like Jen and myself can discuss things that we normally wouldn't discuss publicly on YouTube or on Instagram or places like that. So the academy is making its move to a platform called School, and down below, you will see a link to that. Please check it out to join us for some of those conversations and get access to the master classes. Also, if you want to support this podcast, you can check out some Velasta astaxanthin through the links below in the description or in the show notes. And I talk about this product all the time. The next episode is another podcast with Sam Shepard, the developer. And we go through a lot of questions that people submitted through Instagram. And we also talk about that elephant in the room when it comes to Sam, who is a brilliant scientist and developed a brilliant product and is having incredible results with his customers. But he is a firm believer that fruit is inflammatory and should be cut out of the diet. So we talked about that because, as you know, if you follow any of my stuff, fruit is an integral part of our daily experience when it comes to the cleansing life. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Let's jump on in. So Jen, what's up? You're over there in New Jersey right now. I feel I do miss home sometimes, I have to say.
It's so good to see you. I was so excited to talk to you today. I'm like, that was one of my New Year's resolutions, was to be more social. And the first person I thought about was Mike Perrine. I'm like, we got to start ranting. And what did I say? I'm like, we got to start doing lives and call it shooting the shit, because we have a loose outline for today, but we both have kids. I don't have time to really be scouring for what did you want me to look for? Different life hacks or Insta fads.
I was just like, because I'm so curious. Like, I just did a podcast the other day. And my first question was, what's going on in the culture of your social media feed? Because I don't know if it's just where I'm at in life or what, but like.
Yeah, what's in your feed? I think everybody knows what's in my feed. It's like toilet humor.
In my feed, I see a lot of carnivore diet stuff, but one of the things I see is a lot of practitioners and business owners and we're all in this thing where we've sort of, it wasn't designed by us, but we all fell into line with it. And I mean, this is the whole world where it's like, to varying degrees, you basically need to be creating content for free at all times on the 6 to 7 most relevant platforms, and you have to have a podcast, and you have to do all of these things. And I'm looking at I'm watching everybody do it, and I've done it, and I've actually backed off from it. Now, in the early days, I loved it. It was so fun because I didn't have young kids, and it was new, and it was just like, it was a really great way to sort of share a lot of the stuff that we do, in the holistic health world. Like, it was really cool. And it was fun. And then after a while though, like, especially with the fuckery of the algorithms and the the pressure to put that it puts on you as a business owner and things. It's like it started to feel really heavy. And then of course, my own life, just having young kids and wanting to be present and not always clicking around on the phone,
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's and you're also supposed to relay this message of being present while you're fucking creating content and ignoring your kids. and that's me anyways. So yeah, I'm on the same page as you, and it's exhausting. I don't know what the algorithm is, but I follow over 1,000 people, and I have the same fucking 5 people in my feed every day, and I don't know how to change that.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's Holly follows some people, my wife, and one of them has like a big account, and she's and the woman was like, hey, I got a call. I guess Instagram and Facebook reach out to certain people and go, hey, you're doing great. We want to coach you on how to make better content, which is cool, right? But the things they tell them, it's so fucked up. Like there's a whole bunch of them, but one of the things that sticks out is with hashtags. They allow you like 32 hashtags.
Is that still a thing?
It works, but here's the big piece of advice. And I've heard this from different people that have learned this from Instagram coaches, from the company itself. If you use more than 8, you're pretty much fucked. Like you should use it. Yeah. But like, here's the thing. Do you and I know that? No. So why do they set it up that way? And then there's like secret information, or like it's just really, it's like, that's fucked up. Like, because we're all working hard here.
But why 8? They just chose that number?
It probably has to do with the way that the algorithm can allocate attention. You know what I mean? Probably 32 is probably just way too much. He's probably not able, you know what I mean? Where like 8 probably really focuses in on the right people.
Then it's like, why even have the 32 to begin with? It's like it reminds me of what my mom says about coupons. Like, why don't you just give me the discount? Like, why do I have to like cut out this coupon?
So yeah, so that's it exactly. It's like, why have 32? Why fuck with us? It's like it's almost like someone fucking with us all the time. And then we all know you post a link to your new course or whatever the hell it is, and your engagement drops. I mean, I've literally go for like 2,000 people. Yeah, 2,000 people watching my story down to 276 one weekend.
No.
Why? Oh, this is across the board. Everybody knows it. Like every practitioner,
That's
I see people.
So aggravating. And then I don't get you do come up in my feed, but more garbage comes up in my feed. I would rather have quality content. Like your stuff, and I was going through your page and I'm like, I missed all of these Gil Jacobs posts. Like I'm not caught up with your stuff, and I wish I was, but it's the stupid algorithm, makes me so angry. I mean, Instagram's lovely. It's been really positive in a lot of ways, but I wish they would just change. I think all the ads are also killing us. I think more than 50% of my feed is ads, and
yeah.
So not only am I wasting money, not on paying for ads, but paying for the shit that they're selling me because it works. But I'm like losing actual, quality contact with my friends and my relationships and my clients, and it sucks.
I have a new policy. I never have my phone out really with my kids, just to change the music that we have on in the house or something. But other than that, that's it. Or to like wait for like, my wife to text me or something. But it's just, they know, like I really started to see, because I'm the receptionist here, right? Like I don't have staff here except, I work with a couple of other therapists, but, I do everything here. Like, and I did everything at the big studio in New York too, but like, I mean, I really do everything here, right? So I answer every phone call, I answer every text back, every email, everything. And I would even try to like do that on my days, quote unquote days off when I'm taking care of them, so Holly can work. And they know it, like, and they feel it and they sense it. And I saw a video on Instagram recently with the guy's name is Simon. I don't remember his last name, but
Sinek.
That might, I think that was him. And
I gave him a colonic.
Oh, did you really give him a colonic?
Yeah, release.
Nice. He did a video where he's holding a phone and he's like, and he's speaking to a group of people, like some keynote speech or something, or at some event. And he's like, as he's holding his phone, talking to everyone, he's like, how many people here feel like, like you're the most important person to me right now, and he talked about how like just having your phone even turned upside down on a table at a restaurant makes people feel not that important. And I was like, I can only imagine how that makes my kids feel when I'm like, oh, wait, Dad, I just got to get this client. I got to talk to this person. And the most important thing in their world is my attention and whatever game we're playing or book we're reading, So I was just like, all right, I'm done with that. I was like, I don't care at what expense it comes to my brand or whatever. I was like, I just don't care. You know, like I'm just putting my phone down. There's plenty of time for that. I'll do it when they go to sleep at night and they're not around. Like everybody can wait for my kids, you know?
Yeah. But I think that people feel that, you know, it comes off as more authentic and, you know, it says you're not distracted. I mean, your presence is everything. I need to enforce those rules too. It's like kind of sad. In the morning, my daughter, like, she's like, no, she's fucking 3 years old. Let me go get your phone, mommy. Like, oh my God, she knows. Like, I'm addicted to my phone.
Yeah, and we're you know, I recognize my own addictions to the phone too. Like, you know, when I look at, like, I'll sit down, like, especially when I'm doing like bookkeeping for the studio or something, and I'll sit down and I'll just be like, and in between transactions or whatever, I'll start looking at Instagram. Like, what am I doing? Why am I opening this? And it's because I'm trying to escape the tasks that I actually have to do. And it's just like, man, my brain is addicted to this, you know? We were going to talk about bad vegan too.
Oh yeah. I thought you were going to lead with the other topic.
What was the other topic? I don't recall.
You don't?
No, tell me, refresh me.
Happy endings.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh my God.
I mean, your time is limited, so you got to choose wisely. What are we talking about?
Oh, Jesus. Let's talk about bad vegan because, I don't know. I feel like I need a couple of years to warm up to the happy ending conversations.
All right. Maybe that's another podcast.
So you may or may not have just heard us talk about happy ending stories. We're having a little bit of regret right now, so that may have gotten edited out. I don't know because of some of the things that we talked about. This isn't
a PC conversation.
Well, no, it's not about the PC nature of it. It's just about the things we talked about, maybe not being good public information. We should have a Patreon podcast where we just do it like a behind the scenes type of situation. So let's talk about this bad vegan situation, which I thought was a great thing. I mean, first of all, I'm rooting for Sarma so hard. Like, you know,
are you? I'm thorough. I don't know. What's her deal?
You know, I mean, I've known her for decades now, not known her like we're buddies and we chat all the time or anything like that. She was going to come on the podcast, and this was before the pandemic. And I called her up and I was like, Sarma, come on. And she was like, look, I can come on, but I can't talk about anything because she didn't have her like. She was trying to work on a book to tell the story and stuff. So she's like, I can't talk about all that. And I was like,
that's what I was hoping for. I thought for sure she would get a memoir out of this.
Well, I think that's where things were going. And I was like, Sarma, if we, like, what am I going to do? Have you on? And there's plenty I want to talk to her about that's not related to you know, that whole situation. But I was like, what, your first podcast appearance since you came out of prison and you were not going to touch it? I was like, we just can't do that. Like, this is silly. We have to touch it. So, you know, so she goes, well, look, wait for my book deal to come through and then I'll come on the podcast. And I was like, awesome. And I was like, I'm in and out of New York all the time. This is before the pandemic. I was like, you know, we'll do it. And then that film came out, but they decided to make that film. She took part in it, but they were going ahead without her. So they had enough people and things. They were going to make, not film, that series on Netflix. They were going to make it anyway. So she just got forced into the documentary part of it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and she decided to be a part of it. She said, look, you pay me enough money to pay back these employees that I owe money to. She didn't take any money from it. She just got everybody paid because she's feeling a lot of heaviness from all that. And she was like, shit, well, I guess I should get on there and say my piece, you know, too, you know, because it was going to happen with or without her. So that's how that all happened with her.
I didn't know, like, I don't know how to feel about her. Cause I mean, obviously we all frequented that restaurant and loved it. And I loved like everything that she stood for and represented at the time. And, but then, you know, I had, you know, an ex-boyfriend of mine. I had Joey hired an ex-boyfriend of mine to work there. And then there were all, you know, he was there when all this was going down. So then like slowly she started. Yeah. So then suddenly she wasn't paying employees and and everything started falling apart. So, you know, seeing the story now, it's like, okay, this makes sense. She was under this guy's spell, which I don't know. She was recently on Rachel You Could Tell. You know Rachel You Could Tell? She was on her podcast.
I haven't seen Rachel for years. I haven't seen her for a long time.
She's a great interviewer.
Well, look, you know, I think for people that are mentally healthy to listen to that story, it sounds just so bullshit. It just sounds like nonsense. Like someone just wanted to steal and they came up with this I was abused kind of nonsense. But apparently, you know, it's a very hard psychological space for us to imagine ourselves in when we're mentally well. But I think Sarma was suffering with a lot. I've worked with a lot of clients, like coaching clients, that are like women that are doing big things in business, and they're doing all this self-care work all day, a lot of which results in deprivation, and can feel like it, where they're grinding away. They get home at the end of the day. They like I'm remembering this one woman. She owned a big yoga studio, and she got home at the end of the day, and she would like fast and drink green juice and do yoga all day and run and work and business and social media and do all this stuff. And when she got home, not only was she exhausted from just the what would normally exhaust any business owner, just doing a big project like that, but she didn't have any relationships. So even on a surface level, like she wasn't having sex, she wasn't being desired and having somebody love her and like do all that. So she was having issues with eating late into the night and eating like 4 dinners, so that's why we were working on stuff. But I think there's a very isolating, lonely thing that can happen to people when they're operating like that. And I mean, look, you remember Sarma, like she never smiled. She would always sit in the back of the room looking up, almost like she was afraid sometimes, or like it was like, I really always liked her, but it was very hard to like approach her and feel like super comfortable about it sometimes. And so I think she had a lot of things going on with her and a lot of stress and heaviness on it. And I think it's a big stretch for someone like you or me to be like, oh, that makes sense, because it doesn't make sense. But then when you look at people with mental health challenges, like it doesn't always make sense, especially if it's a result too of being abused at a certain point. And that guy was definitely an abuser. Anyway, that's just looking at her and the way that, and everything she's been through and the way that she's trying to make amends for it. I'm just choosing to believe that version of events,
Yeah. I mean, I want to also. And then, so Bad Vegan 2, I didn't read anything about it. I just saw the quick, sensationalist post that it's coming out. What is that more? Have you talked to her about that? Is that more her side, or is it just more of the same?
It looks like, what looks like is happening. And it looks like she's getting taken a little bit for a ride with this one too. But what's happening is, the filmmaker, it seems like they had great success with I guess Bad Vegan was I don't know what the numbers were, but it did well with Netflix, right? Even my son, so we don't like allow too much screen time with my son. He's like, and especially then when that came out, was like a year and a half ago, he was much younger. Like we really didn't let him have any screen time, and we don't watch anything. The last thing that I watched was like Tiger King at the beginning of the pandemic.
Oh my God. I
haven't watched a thing. I mean, I'll watch some YouTube or social media. I'll fall into a social media hole once in a while, but actually more than once in a while. But I don't like sit down and go, oh, we're watching a movie tonight. Like there's just zero time for that in our life, right? So I don't watch movies. I don't watch documentaries. Everyone's like, have you seen what we eat, what we grow? There's all these new vegan
You are
things.
what you eat. I just saw that one.
Yeah. I'm like, no, I didn't see it. And they're like, yeah, you would love that one. And I'm like, there's just no way. I don't have time for anything. But when Bad Vegan came out, I was like, I know like 90% of the people in here, and I know Sarma, and I obviously we were part of that restaurant in a lot of ways because we were the patrons for over a decade, So I was like, I have to watch this. So I was like, this is interesting. And my son used to, so we'd watch the 30-minute segment and be done. And the next day he'd go, Bad Vegan, because he just wanted to watch another show. But anyway, so they did well with that, right? And I think Jeffrey Chowderow, the restaurateur, the investor, I think he just sees a financial opportunity in it as well. Like it is a pretty badass move to like reopen that restaurant and make a film about it in light of the Bad Vegan thing, or in the shadow of the Bad Vegan thing.
So is she part of the new restaurant? When's it opening?
I don't know what her operating agreement's going to look like, but I read a little bit of a Grub Street article. I didn't get to finish it, but like it looks like she's getting taken for a ride a little bit. Like they're like, oh yeah, we're going to do this, and then like she's not getting paid yet, but like yet they started paying for an apartment in New York, and yeah, so it's like it's very much I relate to this because it's sort of what happened with me with Vitality. It was like, we're doing this as soon as we get the lease and as soon as this, but like I wasn't getting paid for like 8 months to a year or something while we were building it out.
For what? Sorry, you froze a little bit. You were Say that again.
I wasn't getting paid for like 8 months to a year at all. I was working at other studios to earn a living while trying to open a studio. And the investors are always like, "Oh yeah, as soon as we get this, then it'll be, you know, as soon as we get," and you just kind of get strung along as this working partner, this work equity partner. But you're trying to live at the same time. And it sounds like that's what's happening to her. You know, she's getting strung along with this.
I can't believe that place hasn't rented out to anything since this, like, what year did this all go down? This was, feels like 5 years ago.
About 5 years ago. Yeah, it makes sense to me that they didn't rent it out. I mean, could you imagine what the rent is on that absurd place in Gramercy?
Yeah, but like, look at the restaurant next to it. What is it, like a Mario Battello? Like, you know, like there's money around, floating around New York, and that space is amazing. It's amazing. Like, it's got the juice bar area. It's got the outdoor area.
It's a pretty slick space and a great part of town, I have to say. For different reasons, that restaurant ties with my number one restaurant of all time. Angelica Kitchen will always be the number one restaurant of all time for me because of its time and place and history and what it did for the food movement and what it did for me personally. But as far as the one that I really was able to eat at and enjoyed eating at and all that, Pure Food and Wine was the absolute top.
So good.
It was so good. I mean, she's got such a powerful brand there, you know, and so I think they're smart to do it. From what I understand, she's getting dragged around. But I don't understand how life works when I look at that. There's another huge hit piece on on Matthew Kenny that came out.
I was just going to talk about him. I'm like, what's up with Matthew Kenny? I feel like he's a fraudster.
I don't know if I love Matthew. I love him as a person, but a big LA Times article came out talking about his crumbling empire and how he owes out all this money to employees and people and students that never got their courses and purveyors of, you know, like wine and stuff that are like, yeah, we just never got paid by this guy and this company, and failing restaurants and closing restaurants, and how Matthew, he's not a, that business is so hard. I mean, any business is hard, but the restaurant business is psychotic. Like, you have to be a masochist to do that. And then to try to build an empire, you need to be hard. Like, you can't take, you know, like, there's a lot of employees and people that either intentionally or unintentionally will take advantage of you or try to destroy what you're doing. It's why Gordon Ramsay is the way he is. Now, obviously him, like, you know, just totally insulting people and stuff, it doesn't have to be that extreme. You know, I mean, that's why he's the celebrity he is, because of the sort of shock and awe factor of him exploding at people. But the reason that in the early days, there was a show called Boiling Point, that when it was about him trying to get his first Michelin stars, and like, your team is literally fucking so many things up that's fucking up your dream, that like, you have to run this tight ship. You know what I mean? Like, otherwise it's just, especially in the food business, it's just like this free for all of idiocy sometimes when it comes in the kitchen, and low standards and things. So
I'm assuming you haven't seen the Bear. Is that what it's called? Have you heard of this show?
I've heard of it. I've not seen it, but
I saw the first season, and I guess it just won something or other for the second season, but it's so good. And I feel like you as a chef would appreciate it.
I have to watch that one. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. That goes, it's been passed around the circle of my my friends group, but my chef friends group. But Matthew says in that article, like, he's not a confrontational person. He's not that guy. He's like, if he saw something happening with staff with dirty shirt, or like someone will have a dirty shirt, a server or something, he wouldn't confront them and be like, hey, come here, listen, we got to fix this now. He would go to his management and talk about it. Like, and that's like a quote from him in the article. But like, it confuses me, because like, here we go, we have Matthew like not paying people, there's lawsuits against him, and yet he's running this empire. Then we have Sarma that steals all this money, goes on the run, gets arrested, does time in Rikers, and here she is opening a restaurant again. And I like take care of my family, I don't fuck anybody over, I try to be fair, and I'm always having financial problems.
I'm struggling.
Like, yeah, I'm always struggling. Like, how does life work? Like, that these people are like, it's just fuckery on all levels, or, you know, and it's just like, oh yeah, you want another restaurant? Hey, you go, let's do it again. Let's make a movie about it. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, Matthew Kenny had, because, you know, my parents are back and forth Miami and Jersey, and you know, I used to drag my parents to Pure Food and Wine all the time when I was raw vegan, and they just were like, more cashews? Like, can we eat something else, please?
Everything is cashew.
My dad, yes. My dad sent me the articles from like the Miami Herald years ago. Like, Matthew Kenny owed wasn't paying rent, wasn't paying, like he had this great restaurant in Wynwood shut down. Now it's owned by somebody else. It's still plant-based. And you could tell that there's Matthew Kenny, influence on the menu. It's probably still a lot of his items, like the cheese plates and all that. But then he's got that whole like corner in the East Village. He's got 00, right? And the Mexican place, the pasta place. Like, it's just like, what the fuck? And then I heard, his students, like I guess he backed out of the school in Barcelona or somewhere in Spain that he was going to offer. And it's just, you can't really trust this guy. But then does he still have that cooking school in LA?
I don't think he still has the school in LA. My friend Peter used to teach there. Peter
Peter.
Cervoni.
Yeah.
Yes. He taught there.
I didn't know he taught there.
He taught there for like a summer or something. I went to go see them. I visited them out there. It was great. Beautiful restaurant. Peter was teaching. My friend Scott was teaching and running the restaurant for Matthew. And I had some of the best food of my life there. It's just.
He's so impressive. He's like an impressive, chef, his whole empire. But then you're just like, why can't anybody keep it together,
Well, they spread too thin, like got vitality, like almost killed me. Like Holly, I used to come back to Oregon and just be so skinny and just like collapse. And like Holly would be like, you are so sick and messed up. And I'm like, well, I work 16 hours a day every single day. And I'm running something nowhere near as stressful as a restaurant and nowhere near as stressful as 4 restaurants with a cooking school. And like, I just don't understand how anybody has the bandwidth to manage anything like that, unless they're part of an actual organization where, like, yes, you have this guy's face and maybe he writes all the recipes and does some leadership stuff, but the execution, like, you need a full team for that. And I know they have a team, but I just, obviously it wasn't as strong as it needed to be, right?
Yeah. Well, and you're running tell me about you're doing your everyday masterclass. Is that
the Everydaydetox Academy masterclasses? Yeah, that was that's again just like this podcast started 15 years ago or whatever. It's like that was a labor of love. I just really wanted to we talk about these things in bits and pieces on social, and we talk about them in podcasts, and we talk about it with clients, and I thought I would love to just put it together in a really comprehensive place. And I was working with this great marketing team at the time when we were all trying to figure out what the future was after, in the middle of the pandemic. I was like, well, the studio in New York is failing now, and because no one's allowed to leave their house. And we were trying to work with people online, and this marketing team was like, Mike, you have to do some online courses. Like, they would do so well. So I did one, and then I finally got Gil to do one, and Dr. Bishy's going to come and do one. And I would like to open it up to more practitioners and really just create a hub for people that are like, seriously interested in the cleansing life, because this isn't just, this isn't just normal, like, health coaching information that we use. Like, we kind of do like some real specialty work and have a real specialty.
It's like next level alternative work.
Yeah, it's like, talk about a niche. Like the fact that I have a podcast and you and I are sitting here right now discussing enemas and stuff like that, and people are listening, like, it's just it's wild.
What a country! That's what my dad always says.
What a country. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing with the academy. So, and I want to do more live events and stuff. Gil did a live one. It was really funny. It was like him, like, holding a phone like sideways, like looking at it because he can't. You can't do
Doesn't
anything.
know how to use a phone.
Yeah, so you get the ceiling, you get an upshot of his nose, and you get him just going off, like, yelling into the phone. It was pretty good, but we got that done. So, like, behind the scenes, there's a private students group, and I do like events for them and things like that. So,
wait, what's the name of your studio now? Ashland Colonics, or it's not Vitality?
Ashland Gravity Colonics. Yeah, it's so cool, Jen. Like, this is this just being here, like, I look out at the playground where I go and I stretch, I work out there, and just being in this quiet little studio, listening to kids playing outside while I'm working, and like, it's just such a different vibe than the New York thing. The New York thing was killing me after 40 years old.
I know. That's the vibe here. I have a daycare in this building, so their playground's right outside my window. And I get it. I remember when pandemic hit, I would come in because I love being around you, and I love being around Tom, and I just love the energy that brings to my life. But it was just a fucking drag, like going to the city, getting off at Herald Square, and it was not even that much of a commute, but it was just like draining, I was just like, ugh. And then when pandemic hit, I'm like, all right, I'm out, I can't go into the city anymore. And then I just heard that area is just awful now.
that part of town was really what started killing me. Like, and I had an ex-girlfriend that worked there. She worked in fashion. She said, Mike, you're going to hate this area. And I was like,
Why did you choose that area?
It chose us because what happened was we were looking for studios, and I looked at some cool places on the east side, like near Grand Central, that were nice, some like really nice locations. I kind of lost one over there. I didn't strike fast enough. And then we were looking at places in the West Village and down in what is that area called? I'm not going to remember the name of it. It's not NoHo, but it's like there was this really cool area like just below Midtown that was like really cool. Like, so we were looking at other places, but so here's the deal with, at the time anyway, with New York City real estate, it's like you're either paying, if you're looking to just pay like $10,000 or less a month, they want people that are going to come into a space and plug in a bunch of laptops and shit, and that's what they do. Like, they're not looking, put in desks and shelves. But when you want to drill 14 holes through their floor and put in plumbing that is just
extra toilets and extra tubes for shit tubes. This
was Vitality. We had to build them as shower bodies. This is how they classified them for the permits. Shower bodies is because technically it is a shower. It's a drain in a water source, but there's no shower there. It's just a little different situation. It's an internal shower, right? So we did 3 colonic units. We did 5 sinks. We did 2 hot water heaters, and that's insane to do something like that. And then we did the cryotherapy, and then we're like, hey, by the way, we want to drill 14 holes through your floor. We want to run thousands of pounds of piping through your building. And then we want to wheel in 4 to 6 600-pound liquid nitrogen tanks every single day. So, this building that we ended up in, they were trying to change their they wanted to change their image. It's in the garment district, and the garment district is changing, just like the Wall Street area changed to residential and like a little more like there's like bars and restaurants, and Wall Street's not really Wall Street anymore. Like, so I used to live on Wall Street, and it changed into residential. So they were like giving away apartments practically when I started renting their luxury apartments, and so what happened was this building, like, they put in a radio station, they put in some other creative studio, and like they put in a Houdini museum. There's a right above us was a Houdini museum. You can go, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, right upstairs from us was a Houdini museum. So they're trying to do new things. So when we're like, oh, we're this like cryo, like, healthy place, they were just like, yeah, come on in. And we were like, we want to do all this work, and they were like, that's cool. And the people downstairs hadn't moved in yet, so like to go underneath and run all the plumbing, because there's no plumbing in that building, only through the middle where the common bathrooms are. So we had to run all of our plumbing to that thing. Like, it was so insane that what we did to that place. When I look back at the footage and the videos and all this stuff, like, it was psychotic. Like, the things, like when I would be there at like 2 a.m. and like the grinding holes through the floor and I'm just like, I was like, this is nuts. So the building chose us. And I looked at it at the top of a map, and I said, okay, here's the blue line, here's the orange line, here's the red line, and here's Macy's and Times Square. And I said, well, if any problem happens with this, it's not because we chose some obscure little like pocket of the West Village that nobody wants to go to. I was like, anybody can get to us. So we can never say that it was location. So that's how we did it. They chose us, really. Yeah, it was good. It was good. It took years off of my life, but it was all right.
You're gaining it back now in Ashland.
I hope so. I hope I'm like rejuvenating here.
You look good. You always look good. And Mike, for those who don't know, has like the skin of a baby's butt all over his face.
Hey, can I tell you something? I've been doing really bad. I've had so many stressful challenges. And like, my mental health hasn't been great, and I was waking up with so much like pain in my joints and stuff in my body. And I was like, and I'd feel like I ran a marathon sometimes, and my neck would go out, like my alignment, and I'd get massive headaches, and I'd be exhausted. And, and I knew, like, on the surface, I was always like, well, it's stress, because especially when I try to go to sleep at night, I try to figure out every problem I've ever had in my life right before I close my eyes, So then suddenly, the last 3 days, I felt explosively good, strong, like clear, like bounding with energy. And I'm like, what's going on? My wife's like, you know what it is. She's like, your son's going to be here in 2 days. My older son, Brendan, has been driving across the country. He arrived last night. And I was like, holy shit, that's it. And as soon as he got here yesterday, I was like throwing the kids around. I was like, I even questioned the whole thing. I was like, is this my vegan diet catching up with me at 30 years? I was like, is this what happens? And then I'd listen to these carnivore people on social media, like the people I disagree with completely. And I'd be listening to it and I would be like, is this some fucking oxalate shit? Like, what's going on? Are nightshades bothering me? Like, what is going on with me? Because it never made sense for 29 years. But now here I am and like feeling like a million Dogecoin, you know? I'm like, it's not good, you know? And I'm just like, shit. I'm like, you know, could I be wrong about everything? You know, because I'm like, I take Vilasta, I take all these anti-inflammatory things. My diet's anti-inflammatory and I feel like garbage a lot of the time. And I knew I wasn't sleeping, but you start thinking after a while, I'm like, why do I feel like an old man all of a sudden? And I realized it was my thoughts just like polluting my chemistry and causing stress chemicals.
Oh my God. I feel like we're like running we're on the same plane because I've been having these thoughts lately too. I mean, a lot of it for me is just like, you know, my freaking my toddler who's driving me. Yeah, I'm totally sleepless and I don't know if it's sleep regression. I don't know what it is. But she's kicking my ass, like all these tantrums. And it's just like, what, you know, I'm trying to gentle parent my way through it. And then I just lose my shit. And then it's just this up and down. So I think that's what it is for me. Again, my thoughts, my self-defeating thoughts and parenting. But I was, you know, the Prolon cleanse that I've been into. So I just finished a round and I felt like, and they sent me the cleanse with the book written by the founder. So I've been reading this book and it's actually really fascinating. I don't know if you know much about it, but it's this Italian guy
Walter Longo,
Yeah. And, but I finished the cleanse and this one was a little challenging for me. And I was like, I felt like emaciated afterwards. And I was like, I don't think I look good. Like, I don't like look or feel good. I know it's going to like rebound in a few days and I'll like, you know, get a little fuller, but I'm like, I don't think I look good. And then I started reading his book and then I started questioning everything because he was saying his whole thing is, you know, fast mimicking diet. He talks about all the blue zones and, you know, he's a longevity expert.
Yeah.
So fasting, which, you know, whatever, I'm preaching to the choir, but fasting helps lengthen your life. And then he says, you know, eat mostly plant-based with a little bit of fish until age 60 or 65. And then you need to start eating a little bit more protein. And then I started questioning myself. I'm like, this makes sense. I'm 42 and I'm feeling emaciated and weak. But like, meanwhile, a few days later, I feel so good. Like these last few days, even though I'm running on zero sleep, it's like, you're totally, everything you're saying right now, I feel you.
Yeah. And the parenting thing, look, when we start losing sleep and then our kids start unraveling us, like our nervous system because of things that toddlers do and stuff. And like, it has an effect. And then you throw any financial stress or anything else on top of it, or like not getting things done, or like, you know, because, you know, of the demands of parenting. And then also this nonsense of us having to be on social media 24/7, not only for our own mental break that we use it for, but because if we're not, apparently we're invisible and we can't. Reminds me of the number of the beast, you know, without the mark of the beast, you can't buy or sell. You know, like you can't buy or sell unless you're on social, which is kind of true, unless you're a legend like Gil or someone that, you know, built a 40-year career before all this happened, you know. I mean, it takes a toll on you. And I would forget that and I would question it, you know, and be like, just like you did, like, should I be increasing my protein now that I'm older? It's like, like, no, you need
should I eat some animals right now?
Yeah. Should I eat some liver? I need to make a liver smoothie right now.
I started following, I think, one of those animal people that you follow. He's funny, but then after a while, I'm like, this isn't funny anymore. I forget his name. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Was it Paul Saladino, the carnivore MD guy?
I think so.
Yeah.
He's kind of crazy looking.
You mean Liver King?
Yeah, it's Liver King. What is that guy's deal?
He just seems like a party. I mean, he uses steroids and things like that, and he eats all that organ meat. Like, he's not going to be around for a long time. But you know, he just seems like a guy with a lot of body image issues, and he's working them out, for all of us to see, and he's performing, and you know, that sells on social, you know, and he's doing great with that. But unfortunately, I mean, you can even see it. You can see it in his vascularity. You can see it in his face. I mean, he's younger than me. You can see it in his face and everything.
That's what this guy Walter talks about real quick in the book is, you know, eating all this animal protein unlocks something that ages you rapidly.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of things that have to do with animal protein. It's how it's cooked and the glycation end products that come from it. Also, animal protein can stimulate, especially concentrated animal protein or in excess, can stimulate human growth hormone, which is great when you're trying to build muscle and look like Liver King. But it can also fuel the growth of cancer cells, and and then, of course, we know about the clogging, congesting aspect of fiberless protein sitting in the gut, decomposing and letting off waste gases. But Jen, on that, speaking of letting off waste gases, somebody needs to get on this table and they need to let off some waste gases. So I should jump on this one.
All right, respect.
Yeah, but we got to do this again.
We'll
pick it up with Liver King. It was great to see you.
You too.
Yeah, we'll do this again soon.